Awesome.
Your Honor,
Video games.
death.
Oh no.
Well, folks, the decade may be over, but the advances and new creations of the past 10 years are still being felt to this day, and one place where this is definitely clear is in the world of video games. Your local gamer tiefling went from a geeky middle schooler all the way to a college graduate between the years of 2009 and 2019. And during that time, I discovered many games to add to my collection. Well, if my Steam library is any indication anyway. But ultimately, some games are going to be better or resonate more with players than others. From standalone titles to impressive series entries, a variety of games stood out to me and left an impact in one way or another, whether it be in story, gameplay, or just a fun experience overall. That's why today, I'm going to be counting down my top 15 best games of the decade. But TIEF, you say? Didn't the decade end last year? Shouldn't you have done this ranking video then? Well, I, like many people, would very much like to pretend that 2020 never happened, so we're just gonna pretend 2021 is the start of a new decade. Okay, thanks, bye! Now, keep in mind, this is my personal ranking from my own time playing these games, so if a game you like isn't on this list, or I rank something lower or higher than you would, don't come for me in the comments. Also, these aren't meant to be proper reviews outlining my pros and cons with each game. I have plans to talk more in detail about some of these later on, so these will just by and large be short blurbs on each title. Also, in order to be ranked on this list, the game in question must have been released between 2009 and the end of 2019, and I must have played it myself before the end of 2020 in order to count it. I'll be considering a variety of factors such as replayability, story, execution, and just the good old fun factor. Well, without further ado, let's jump right in and get started. Starting us off at number 15, we have The Sims 4. Yeah, I've heard it all. Sims 3 and 2 are probably better overall, and if I had played those first, I would likely not enjoy 4 as much as I do. But for somebody whose first entry into the series was 4, and who never had anything to compare it against, I have to say I do quite enjoy my virtual Barbies. Now, I completely admit, the game was not nearly as pleasant or playable as it is now on launch. But over the years with additions to the vanilla game and some pretty welcome pack ideas, it's improved to a decent enough position where I do find myself coming back to it time and time again. Now don't get me wrong, Sims 4 is riddled with issues, and you shouldn't have to invest in mountains of custom content or hundreds of dollars of DLC to get a more complete experience. Plus, there's a variety of problematic aspects that were only recently addressed, if at all, like skin color issues and a lack of representation for non-binary people. But for what it's worth, the possibilities for customization and storytelling are substantial enough at this point that I would feel comfortable recommending this game. The Sims franchise is all about what you ultimately make of yourself. And, well, in what other game do I get to be a celebrity vampire married to local legendary snack Caleb Vitor? All in all, a low rank on my list, but Sims 4 just barely managed to sneak on. At number 14, we have Limbo. Limbo has become the archetypal 2D cinematic platformer / puzzle-solving game with a silent protagonist, so much so that the company behind Limbo even made a spiritual successor to their own title. Good thing that one was objectively way worse in every conceivable way. But the original Limbo thrives on one basic principle: simplicity. It wasn't a necessarily hard game, since like other cinematic games, it's more a focus on the experience and story than on gameplay. But it manages to still be intriguing and fun, even if you're not as interested in the plot. And even though this title suffers from the same case of terminal ambiguitis of other similar style games, its simplicity allows it some leeway in this regard since it's not trying to tell some sort of grand narrative. If you haven't experienced Limbo yet, give it a try or watch a Let's Play on YouTube. It's dark, it's atmospheric, and it's a solid entry on this list. Coming in at number 13, we have Grease. This indie game about grief and death is one of the most beautiful experiences I've had in a long time. We witness our main character lose her voice, fall into the colorless world below, and travel through it as she processes her loss. As she builds up her resilience, regaining color, she must face the monster that is following her. This game can be interpreted in many ways, and is riddled with symbolism and metaphors, but I think most mentally ill players and those suffering from trauma can see themselves in our main character and how she builds her own road to recovery. And of course, the soundtrack and visuals are absolutely stunning. I frequently will leave the OST on in the background while I'm doing tasks since it's so ethereal and emotional. Despite its simplistic gameplay suffering from the same silent protagonist 2D platformer syndrome of Limbo, this is a visual and auditory treat for anyone, and I highly recommend you pick it up if you've been interested in anything I've said so far. It's also on the shorter side, but it's the breathtaking art direction and impactful music that make it well worth your time.
What's Bricklebit?
A magic word.
What's it do?
Makes animals shit gold.
At number 12, it's The Wolf Among Us. Telltale has become quite the joke amongst the storytelling game community. Well, I suppose they had. But there's a few of Telltale's games that really resonated with me, and the top choice from those is The Wolf Among Us. Following the big bad wolf known as Big B, this game combines the best elements of film noir, detective movies, and gritty fantasy action as you explore the world of classic fairy tales and fables set in the modern day, while a murder mystery looms over the characters. It's a more fantastical take on a game like LA Noire, but with that visual novel edge that Telltale was known for. Even if you're not a fan of choice-based story games, I still would recommend giving Big B a chance. The game takes itself far less seriously than any David Cage title, while still managing to be endearing and funny and having a more likable and interesting cast of characters. And it can be fun to play through multiple times and screw around with how you answer. If you enjoyed the Walking Dead series, or maybe are looking for a better Telltale game than Minecraft Story Mode, I can't recommend this one enough.
Hello?
At number 11, we have Luigi's Mansion 2, Dark Moon. I was personally shocked to hear that this game had such a lukewarm reception compared to its predecessor, given that I would rank Dark Moon as my favorite Nintendo 3DS game overall. I guess this just continues my trend of loving the black sheep of every video game series. Picking up where the first game left off, Dark Moon follows Luigi exploring not one, but 5 mansions in the strangely cursed world of Evershade Valley. With new ghost types along with our favorite treacherous boos, Luigi has to make use of new mechanics to save toads, collect gems and money, solve puzzles, and ultimately restore the valley and face off against King Boo. This game is a delight visually, and I actually like the mission structure that a lot of people tend to criticize. It allows for bite-sized excursions into each mansion area while still keeping you on your toes with collectibles and ranking requirements like health and timing. I feel genuinely compelled to 100% this game every time I boot it up, but it never feels overbearing or too hard to do so. The puzzles are unique and fun, the boss battles are interesting, and there's a ton of charm in Luigi's animations and interactions. To me, this felt like a worthy successor to the blueprint the GameCube title had set up. I've not yet played the third installment fully, so we'll have to see how that one stacks up, but I would give Dark Moon a solid 7 out of 10. We've finally broken the top 10, and to start us off is Papers, Please. Many games like Heavy Rain or Valhalla try to make you feel like your actions have a genuine impact. Papers, Please, however, delivers gut-punching choices that you may or may not even know you had more than one answer to, and rubs the consequences, no matter how devastating, in your face. A man tells you to be kind to his wife who is in line after him, but she has no passport. Do you turn her away, knowing you may doom her to die? Will bribes change your mind to allow a wanted criminal past the border? Given the choice between lethal and non-lethal methods of suppression, which would you choose? These are only some of the more overt options you have as a border control checkpoint operator. Some less clear ones rely on speed of reaction to save someone's life, or how many passports you'd be willing to pocket to help members of your family flee. This is an experience that absolutely must be played yourself to truly grasp how ingenious the gameplay design is. And with 20 possible endings depending on your actions and a marathon mode, the replayability of this game is pretty impressive. Give it a try if you haven't yet, and remember, glory to our Stotska. Jumping into number 9, we have Super Mario Odyssey. Having missed out on the Wii U generation of Mario games, my last standalone entries to the series were New Super Mario Bros. Wii and Mario Galaxy 2, both of which were lackluster to me for various reasons. So when the Switch came out with this newest Mario game and I got my hands on it, boy was I ecstatic. Odyssey is packed to the brim with every essential component of a good collectible-based platformer. Fun and expansive worlds, neat mechanics that enhance Mario's existing moveset even more, lots and lots of things to uncover and find, and some pretty clever options for movement and exploration. Now, I've heard the criticisms about this game, and I'll agree it's not the best Mario game overall, but I still had a blast getting through the main story and then going back into trying to 100% everything. There are some BS moons here and there that keep this game from breaching the top 5, but I would gladly pick this up for another playthrough anytime. And I mean, come on, even if you hate this game, you have to appreciate it for at least bringing back Icon Pauline and making her a permanent addition to the Mario cast. All in all, a fun romp through the Mario world that I would recommend to anyone.
The zombies are coming.
Growing in at number 8 is Plants vs. Zombies. The original one. Don't talk to me about garden warfare. Released in 2009, this over 10-year-old game still managed to be addictive and fun even when reduced down to a meager mobile version left in the dust by EA. I fully admit I'm not the best at real-time strategy games, but Plants vs. Zombies manages to make each level feel fun, challenging, and unique, without ever getting frustrating or ridiculously hard. The minigame interruptions are also great to break up the pace and give you a rest, while Crazy Dave offers you lots of incentive to collect money by having goodies in his shop to help you out or new modes to purchase. There's not much else to say. It's a great series that sadly got turned into another one of EA's monstrosities over time, but the original game still works as an excellent standalone title. Give it a try if you missed out on it before. It's a free app, so you've got no excuses. At number 7, we have Animal Crossing: New Leaf. I mentioned before that Sims 4 was my first game in the Sims series, and that if I had experienced an earlier entry first, I might have different thoughts on 4. Well, that's my attitude towards New Leaf. I even went back and ranked this game much higher than my original pass of this list after returning to it from New Horizons and realizing just how much I love this entry. Though this game is much older than its successor, New Leaf was by far the best balance of customization and community, two of the cornerstones of the Animal Crossing series. Villagers had personality and fun unique interactions like errands, house calls, hide and seek, and random questionnaires. Something I didn't even know until my most recent playthrough is that villagers will send you your reward via mail if your pockets are full, and will include unique text when they do so. A variety of locales like Club LOL, the Roost Cafe, retail, the 2 different museum floors, and the Dream Suite make your town feel like it was genuinely growing and expanding over time. The best example is the Nookling store, which upgrades quite a few times and requires you to ace Gracie's fashion check 4 times to reach the final tier. There was just so much to do, and this was only expanded on with the Welcome Amiibo update that added campers, Amiibo compatibility, and more. There's just a lot of substance that kept me coming back to New Leaf time and time again. I felt genuinely emotional when villagers left or moved in, or when public works projects were finally funded, or when I could see various characters like Sable and Brewster developing their relationships with me. It was a meaningful game that really resonated with me as a lonely young adult, much in the way the original creator of the series intended it to, and this only got stronger after experiencing New Horizons and finding it to be lackluster in comparison. New Leaf definitely earns its spot on this list, and if you're looking for a first entry into the Animal Crossing series, or something more improved from New Horizons, I definitely recommend this one.
Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real.
At number 6, we have What Remains of Edith Finch. When I first saw this game's trailer, I was expecting a sort of fantasy mystery story with a spooky twist. Instead, I got sucker punched with one of the most tragically beautiful stories I've ever witnessed. Edith Finch is what the walking simulator genre should always be, remaining a standard that very few games have managed to live up to. It's also by far the best example of how the medium of a video game enhances a story more than simply viewing it like a movie, since you're doing the actions yourself. For most story-focused games, I think watching a Let's Play without commentary can be sufficient to experience it, but not for this one. It's something that has to be played for yourself to fully grasp the emotional impact it has. I have plenty more to say about this game, but for now, I'll leave it at this to avoid spoilers. Please play this game and see what a beautiful, heartbreaking, and meaningful story it is for yourself. You will not regret it. We're on the home stretch now with number 5, and we have A Hat in Time. When it comes to spiritual successor to the likes of Mario Sunshine and Banjo-Kazooie, no game does it better than this Gears for Breakfast debut title. You follow Hat Kid, an alien? Who gets stranded after her spaceship's supply of fuel in the form of hourglass timepieces is accidentally spilled. Now it's a platforming collectathon adventure to get them back, defeat bosses, explore open world landscapes, and get bonus power-ups like new hats and badges to aid you on your journey. Honestly, I'm stunned that such a small team got it so right on their first try. The banger music, the endearing characters, the hilarious dialogue, the fluid controls, and the simple yet sharp story that doesn't overstay its welcome. And with additional DLCs that have been released since the launch, new challenges have been added to the game to enhance an already excellent base. If you grew up on Banjo-Kazooie or Mario 64 and want a modern taste of the same flavor, grab this game if you haven't yet. And, as an added bonus, it has a very active modding community on Steam. It's such a fun, cute, and relatively shorter game that I think you'll really enjoy your time with. At number 4, we have Cuphead, Don't Deal with the Devil. Like most people, I saw the trailer early on for this game, and while I thought it was neat at the time, I mostly forgot about it until it returned for launch. And boy, was I blown away by just how much effort and care was put into this title. The beautiful art style for the characters and backgrounds, the absolutely jazzing music, the simple yet really effective gameplay style of boss rushing and platformers, it just melts together so beautifully. If you haven't yet, I highly recommend you take a look at the behind the scenes footage as well, showing the process of making the art and music, or buy the art book. It's incredible just how much Studio MDHR put into this game, and I'm so happy they were rewarded with good sales and so much love. They absolutely deserve it, and I'm so excited for their future projects, including the upcoming DLC for Cuphead. You've probably already seen or played this game, but if you haven't yet, do give it a fair go. Just be sure not to break your controller on Dr. Call's robot.
La Fenu Venido.
Scuttling into number 3, we have Hollow Knight. What an absolutely gorgeous game. From the art style to the music to the strangely heartbreaking bittersweet story. It seems games about bugs can do no wrong. This Metroidvania combines favorite elements of a lot of games I've already listed. Platforming, exploration, colorful characters, satisfyingly challenging bosses, and a deeply emotional story with multiple endings. And with the sequel coming soon, hopefully. Please Team Jerry. Now is a great time to give it a try if you haven't yet. All DLC was added in free patches, so you'll have an even more vast world to explore from the get-go, and the secrets of Hollowness are just waiting for you to reveal them. I can't say too much else without going into spoilers, but trust me, it's worth it. And remember,
Get the!
you knew this was coming. At number 2, we have Little Nightmares. I plan to make a video fully encapsulating my thoughts on the entire series later on, but let me be the first to say that Tarsier Studios did something incredible here. This dark, action-packed story follows raincoat-wearing Six, a little girl, escaping the clutches of a submarine known as the Maw. The impact of this game's aesthetic on me cannot be understated. The dark, eerie visuals, the monster designs, the incredible score by Tobias Lilja, the intuitive controls, and the exhilarating scripted sequences all combined to create a phenomenal experience. There is so much this game got right, and even though people criticize it for suffering from the same case of ambiguitis that Limbo and similar titles have, I think the immense atmosphere and tone make up for it in spades. Little Nightmares stands tall and proud as one of my all-time favorite games alongside its 2021 sequel, and I can't recommend it enough. Before we get to our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions that didn't make the list. Overwatch. Overwatch is a highly polarizing game that has had many ups and downs for me. In fact, I originally ranked it on this list at number 15, but following the recent Blizzard scandals, I couldn't in good faith bring myself to keep it on the main list. That being said, the historically positive aspects of this game for me can't be denied. For starters, the basic idea is pretty genius. A first-person shooter combined with MMORPG abilities? You can't deny that was a pretty fun idea, especially considering how many games after this have taken advantage of that same formula. The characters are also the shining stars of the game. Anyone who knows me well enough can verify I'm Junkrat's biggest stan. And when the games go right, they go really right. Some of my fondest memories with this game are setting up in my college cafeteria to scrounge up some decent Wi-Fi for hours of games. Now don't get me wrong, there's lots wrong with this game and its company of course, and there's lots more issues I take with the game than I do with positives, like stunted story, bad balancing, and just sloppy execution in so many aspects. But I can't deny the times in the past when this game was a pleasure to play, or the lasting impact the fun characters and scraps of lore have given me, particularly the pre-2018 era. Honey Pop and Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator. Yeah, I'm a degenerate, but these low-stakes, brain popcorn-type dating sim games are just a fun waste of time, what can I say? Dream Daddy ultimately scratches a more wholesome itch with its cute and well-rounded characters, while Honey Pop is more of a comedy game in the grand scheme of things. Both have definite issues, and I wouldn't feel right ranking them as actual favorite games on this list, but I can't help but find myself quoting Q on occasion or humming the Dream Daddy theme song. Outlast Whistleblower. Outlast was great. The DLC Whistleblower was even better. Eddie Gluskin alone is worth the price of admission, and honestly, I'd say this bonus campaign is a better addition to the Outlast world and story than the sequel. It fleshes out the various characters and baddies, adds more background lore to the main game to improve the experience on a subsequent playthrough, and adds in new enemies that are unique, fun, and pretty damn scary. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. I usually prefer graphical quality over frame rate for non-multiplayer games, but this might be the lone exception. Hacking and slashing with wild abandon never felt so good or so fluid. Along with a more simplistic but well-constructed story than the main MGS games, MGR feels more accessible, especially if you can get into the banger music and absurdist humor. If you haven't seen Matthew Matos's video on this topic, I highly recommend you check that out too for a more thorough analysis. And lastly, Yearwalk. A delightfully creepy romp through the forest to learn your future turns incredibly dark, and that's all I can really say without spoilers. The graphics are stunning, and the transition from a mobile game to a PC game was done very well. I never had any hitches in gameplay. It's a shorter title that you can bang out in an hour or two, but it's still worth the time in my opinion. And our number one pick for my best game of the 2010s is... The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Yeah, we've seen it all by now. The glitches, the bugs, features, the copious re-releases, the memes. The impact of Skyrim can't be denied. This game is an absolute juggernaut when it comes to how much our very culture has been shaped by it. It's a notorious game for so many reasons, and there's no denying that. And yet, despite everything, it's still a good game. Whether you play vanilla or modded, legacy or special edition, with or without DLC, Skyrim truly brought something else to the table in 2011. Even though I'm excited for Elder Scrolls VI, I know I can always boot up Skyrim and dive back into an old character file or start up a new one and be immediately engrossed in the world. With an active player base that has stayed pretty dedicated a decade later, there's a surprising amount of new content being generated pretty often. And even in the game itself, I find new details and secrets all the time. It combines all the elements I love in a game. Exploration, open world mechanics, leveling up with skill trees, character customization, story impacting decisions, alliances and factions, you name it. There's little I can say about this game that hasn't already been said, and I do plan to talk more about it in the future. But yeah, it's definitely my top pick. It's replayable, it's fun, and it just means a lot to me. And I guess I'll mention that, Molag Bal Best Prince. Okay, bye! Did you like my list? Did you agree with my picks and thoughts? Let me know in the comments below and toss a like to your tiefling if you enjoyed this video. Should I do a worst games of the decade ranking too? Let me know. There's plenty more gaming videos on the horizon too. But for now, I'll catch you guys next time. Bye everyone!